Tonight on Lifesavers, a swarm of angry bees on the attack. Cardiac arrest at the fair. Can a new machine save his life? Plus, the emergency services' desperate search for two young surfers lost at sea. Over the years, 999 Lifesavers has provided safety information on a vast range of subjects, from infant resuscitation and water rescues to coping with alcohol poisoning and even lightning strikes. And we know from your letters that when faced with an emergency, you're surprised at exactly how much information you do recall. The teachers who feature in our first reconstruction tonight wanted us to tell their story so that others can learn from their frightening experience.
When Gloucestershire headmaster Matthew Lloyd and fellow teacher Gail Walsh set off with a group of 4- and 5-year-olds for a day out by the river, they thought they were prepared for anything. The staff and pupils of Breedon Village School have helped us reconstruct the events of that day, but Mrs Walsh and one of the children, Matilda New, are played here by actors.
Well, before any school outing, we have to think of the safety. I fill in a risk assessment form which tries to identify all the possible incidents that could take place. But I didn't think of what did happen at the end.
All of a sudden there was this sudden scream.
I've never dealt with anything to this degree, and I must admit I was absolutely terrified that something very dramatic would happen. And so I was learning literally on the job.
Breedon is a classic English village. It has a lovely parish church, it has 2 pubs, it has a village shop and a village school, and just a wonderful atmosphere where everybody's really happy. It was a lovely day, it was a beautiful sunny day, and we were really looking forward to going down to being by the riverside.
The younger children had taken on the school bellboat. Well, a bellboat, I suppose, can be described as a catamaran canoe. We'd split the class into groups. I took a group at a time on the river to have a paddle up and down and look at the wildlife and the nature around.
My job that day was to look after the children who were not having a turn on the bellboat at the time. We were doing some sketching, looking at different colours, helping the children to practice their drawing skills.
Obviously, the person in charge, myself, was appropriately qualified. All the children have the correct buoyancy aids. They are instructed exactly where to sit and to stay seated. All safety procedures are thought of and adhered to rigidly.
They'd asked right at the beginning, they'd said, could they roll down the banking? And I said yes, as a treat.
Can we play roly-poly down the hill?
OK.
Yay!
And then they raced up to the top of the hill and started to roll down.
Okay.
All of a sudden there was this sudden scream. She looked as though she was covered in just black mud.
The children on the bank,
I was on the boat coming back 20 or 30 metres from the mooring position.
Come on then, children, let's row a bit faster. It looks like Mrs Walsh wants some help. Come on.
It was obvious that the children and the teacher were quite distressed.
Matilda!
As the bees were all around her, she was shouting out.
Go away, children, go away!
I'd had some experience in the past about bees. I knew already that you have to keep calm.
Keep calm, Matilda.
I was worried that the bees would actually get in her mouth and that it might swell up and then would stop her from breathing.
Now, keep your mouth closed.
The rest of the children were marvellous. They just ran to the other end of the field and they stayed there until other adults were able to get to them. I started then to try and stroke the bees off Matilda, but first of all we were too close to the swarm and the bees wouldn't actually leave her, they were still clinging to her.
Let's walk down to the river.
So I walked her towards the water, hopefully thinking that bees don't like water. I was thinking of throwing Matilda in to get the bees off her, but I realised this would not have been a very good idea, as the bees would have gone onto her face, which was the area we were trying to keep them away from. I brushed down because it calms the bees down if you brush them downwards, and it keeps them away from her face, which was the part I was most worried about.
Go on, quickly. Join the other children.
I couldn't go and join them because the bees were still flying around me and I was worried that the swarm might still come. So I was just surrounded because obviously I was the one who was upsetting them then.
Okay.
She told the children to keep away, and that gave me the chance to calm the children down and find out exactly who'd been stung and who hadn't. 2 children had 1 or 2 bee stings, but Matilda herself had bee stings over her face, her arms and her legs. I carry a mobile phone as part of the safety procedures.
Let's get over here. Right, Jean, I've got a problem with some bees. Can you come
It was
down
introduced some years ago, and we carry it just in case.
Matilda was taken to the local surgery, where the doctor was astonished by her stings.
Matilda had about 100 stings. Although I've frequently treated bee stings, I've never dealt with anything to this degree. And I must admit, I was absolutely terrified that blood pressure would drop and that she would have an anaphylactic reaction. This type of allergic reaction usually happens, although rarely, within the first few minutes. Having checked that she was in a stable state, we set about removing the stings. The reason you take the sting out is that the venom that's injected into the body can continue to carry on being injected. So if you can remove the sting without squeezing it too hard, you can actually prevent some of the venom entering the body.
When Dr. McMorland was satisfied that Matilda was in no immediate danger, her mother arrived to take her to the local hospital, where she remained under observation for 2 days.
She was discharged from hospital and she came back to school on the Thursday, as right as rain.
I only had 12 bee stings and I thought I came off very, very well. Matilda was wonderful. She was so brave. She was very calm after the initial shock of what had happened, and she did exactly what she was told. She was a really brave little girl.
I like bees now because they're stripy and they make honey and they buzz.
Right, let's put this helmet on. Right, looking forward to seeing the bees?
Yeah.
Yeah, not
We're
really
going to
frightened,
see
are
the
you?
bees in the hives and I'm going to wear a special suit
How's
for them.
that feel?
I'm looking forward to it.
If you look into those holes, you can see little tiny white grubs. And in some
Matilda's
of them,
mother
you
has
can
been
see
very
little
positive about bees, and she has told her how useful the bees are, and Matilda has now been to a hive and to see some of the bees.
I was very brave and the school gave me a teddy bear and I called him Bumble.
It's actually extremely rare to find a swarm of bees on the ground. They almost always prefer to settle in hedges or up in trees. In Matilda's case, the experts think the queen bee was too big to fly, fell to the ground, and then the rest of the swarm settled in around her.
Swarming bees don't attack unless they're provoked. But as we saw when Matilda rolled over them, they did become angry. Wasps are different. They never swarm. But if you disturb a wasp's nest, you could suffer multiple stings. St John Ambulance has this advice on dealing with stings. Bee and wasp stings are usually painful rather than life-threatening. If you are attacked by a swarm of bees, it's important to keep calm and overcome your instinct to wave your arms about or run away. Bees aim for your highest point, usually your face or head. So crouch down and protect your face with your arms. Bees respond aggressively to fast movement, so move slowly indoors or into undergrowth. Bees dislike shade. Don't kill any bees. They give off a hormone when harmed to signal danger, which makes it more likely others will attack. And never throw water over bees, this will only antagonise them. If wasps attack, the advice is very different. You should run away as fast as you can. Once you're out of their territory, the attack should stop. If you receive even a single sting, it's important to know whether it's from a wasp or a bee. A bee leaves its sting in the skin, whereas a wasp doesn't, so all you'll see is a swelling. You must remove a bee sting as quickly as possible, or it will continue pumping venom into the wound. Use tweezers to pull it out carefully, or scrape it away with the back of a knife or a fingernail below the poison sac. Always make sure you remove the whole sting to prevent infection. Wasp and bee stings cause painful swellings. Cool the affected area with an ice pack, even a bag of frozen peas will do. You can also use an anaesthetic spray to help relieve the pain. If you are stung in the mouth or throat, it can be dangerous as the swelling can block your airway. You should call for an ambulance. Sucking ice or sipping cold water will help control the swelling until help arrives. If someone is suffering from multiple bee or wasp stings, they could go into shock or be poisoned. Sometimes even a single sting can cause a severe or even life-threatening allergic reaction called anaphylactic shock. Again, call for an ambulance. If they become unconscious, be prepared to carry out the ABC of resuscitation.
People visit Brighton Pier every year, and hardly any of them ever imagine they're going to be at the centre of a medical emergency. But on a busy day, there are as many as 16 first aiders on duty here. In cases of cardiac arrest, it's vital to know what to do, because every minute lost before treatment can reduce the chances of survival by 10%. Paramedics and some first aiders now carry machines called defibrillators, which are an important part of that treatment. The defibrillator works by administering electric shocks to the chest, which restores the heart to its normal rhythm. And as we reported last year, there are now new portable defibrillators that anybody can learn to use. The first aiders in our next reconstruction had learned to use their defibrillator just 3 weeks before going on duty at Hull Fair. The fair's an annual event and draws huge crowds. In October 1996, 21-year-old Paul Tyson and his friend Gary Regan had casual work on the rides. Paul is played here by an actor.
Gary got me my job, which was actually situated behind his ride. Just collecting tokens, collecting cash, that sort of thing, making sure the kids are all right. It was an early start and it was late finish. It's a lot of hard work. It was exciting, it was fun to be actually there.
We get so many calls over the fair, with 750,000 people passing through the fairground in a week. The risk or the chances of somebody having a sort of a cardiac episode can be quite high. It'd been slightly busier than average day, but it was quietening down, and I'd taken a walk down to number 1 first aid post to see what the situation was like there.
Gary asked me to go for some cigs. Just ran there to the shop, which was about 500 metres away. I was a bit out of breath, so I slowed myself down. Ran back to where Gary was. I was just about to natter to him. Just felt myself going dizzy. It goes blurry and like a real long tunnel. You can only see a light at the end of it.
Come on, get up. Come on, will somebody help?
This gentleman came running up to the first aid post asking us if we could come and have a look at his mate.
Paul, can you hear me? Open your eyes for me, Paul.
Paul was unconscious, deeply unconscious. I got no response from him, but he was breathing, although it was erratic, and there was a pulse. We inserted an airway just to make sure that his breathing was okay, and I was quite happy to monitor him and stay with him until the ambulance arrived. But all of a sudden, he just relaxed, and on rechecking him, we discovered his breathing and his pulse had stopped.
No, he's arrested. Can you put a priority call in to get the defib? Do you know CPR? Yeah.
It's obvious that the patient is in full cardiac arrest.
I'm going to ventilate if you can do the compressions for me.
We'd started doing CPR, but I've been involved with resuscitations before, and what is only a few minutes seems to go on forever. All we would have been able to do would be to keep the patient's brain supplied with oxygen. Now that we've got these pieces of equipment, the defibrillators, it makes sort of all the difference, because the defibrillator is the only thing that's going to restart the patient's heart. The automated defibrillator that we use will actually analyse the electrical activity of the heart.
Analysing, stand clear.
If it recognises a shockable rhythm, it will charge itself up.
Stand clear. Press to shock.
The operator delivers an electrical shock through the heart.
Shocking.
This has the effect of stunning the heart, stopping it, and allowing the heart's natural pacemaker to regain control and hopefully bring it back into a normal, regular rhythm.
OK, we've got a rhythm.
We'd succeeded, and Paul's heart started again and he was breathing again. The sort of sense of relief that flooded into my mind at that point was unbelievable. I did go back and see him in hospital a few days later, and things had sunk in then. He'd realised the gravity of the situation.
Yeah, I've got a heart murmur. And what it is a black spot on the heart when it shows up on X-ray. I've had it since I was born. They just said, bring him up as a normal kid.
Had we been there and not had that equipment, then the outcome could have been quite different. We might have been attending Paul's funeral rather than chatting to him at the hospital. It really is sort of the power of life and death in your hands.
If it weren't for that defibrillator that they had, I'd never be here. It was 15 minutes for the ambulance to actually get to me. I was clinically dead for 3 minutes. Another minute, I'd be brain dead. Another 5 minutes, and I'd be dead. So it'd been too late for the ambulance to bring me back.
In a charity such as ours, a defibrillator is an expensive piece of equipment, and just to save one life justifies the expense all by itself.
Mobile defibrillators cost around £2,000, but I'm sure most people would agree it's a small price to pay for on-the-spot emergency treatment. If you'd like to know more about defibrillators or want more details on first aid courses, you can now find that information on the internet at the brand new 999 website. There's also news about future programmes and a Lifesavers quiz for you to test your first aid knowledge. It's easy to find on the BBC Education site at www.bbc.co.uk/education. Each week we'll be adding new areas, including a look behind the scenes at how the 999 programme is put together.
On a day like today, it's easy to forget how powerful and how dangerous the sea can be. Every year, around 100 people lose their lives around Britain's coasts. Many of these incidents are the results of strong but invisible undertows. Often they're caused by rip currents. These are jet-like streams of water that flow powerfully out to sea.
Peter Rogers and Ian Bartram are experienced surfers and well aware of the dangers. But in November 1996, a near fatal lapse of concentration was to leave them struggling for survival. In our reconstruction, Peter and Ian are played by actors. Everyone else takes part as themselves.
I first started surfing with Wendy, my girlfriend's brothers, Peter and James.
We were driving as fast as we could down to Wales, where we planned to try and get in the surf before the sun went down. We had arranged to meet both of my brothers who were driving over from Cardiff.
If it was warmer, it would be better. But in fact, you know, it's better surf in the winter, so that's when we go.
Hey, mate. Hey, Jim. Hey, how you doing? Good to see you.
Pete already had his suit on when I arrived, but I still managed to go running down the pebbles first.
I didn't come down from London for nothing, you know.
I just wanted to get out into the water so that I could get out onto the waves before it went dark.
You have a full wetsuit, gloves, hood and boots. I've been a lifeguard for 5 years, but it's very difficult, even with that preparation, to be fully prepared for everything that the sea can throw at you, you've got to start having some way of identifying yourself against the darkness. Dive sticks, torches and strobes are perhaps not the coolest way to do it, but it's essential. I'd put on a strobe on my arm, which I'd been given as a birthday present.
I enjoy it in the winter when there's not many people around and the water's very cold. But the rip was stronger than normal and I was getting pulled more and more to the east.
As the water comes in, it must find a way out. So you end up with large currents, which are known as rip tides, which generally characterise themselves as a flat area in the surf.
Knowing the dangers, Ian decided to go back and warn Pete.
There's a rip going all the way up, from about there to there.
And I asked them where Pete was. They said he'd gone out for the outer break to try and find me. I took my board and paddled back out.
You usually stop and check your position a lot, and every surfer will tell you that. I lost concentration. I looked around in my position. I had drifted the full length of the beach. I looked back. I saw Ian about 50 metres away.
Keep paddling, Pete! Keep paddling!
He was trying to call me over. He could see that I was in a bit of a dangerous situation.
With a rip tide, you normally should paddle at 90 degrees from the current to try and get out of the rip current so that you can then paddle normally. He started paddling towards me and he just didn't seem to be getting anywhere.
I dug my hands in with greater effort and really started to pull as hard as I could. But despite doing that, I could feel the water passing beneath me like an escalator, walking the wrong way up an escalator. It was an incredibly strong rip. I really thought, this is something that we've got to get out of, and fairly quickly, because it was getting dark. A wave caught Ian, and within moments, he was right by my side. The rip had got hold of him.
I was saying to Peter, look, why on earth weren't you watching the shore? Why didn't you pay attention to what was going on? We couldn't really see the coast anymore. And that was the point where we started to think, well, we now need to decide what to do because we're in trouble.
I think we should head in for the cliffs.
Pete wanted to head for the rocks. There was just no way that we were going to be able to surf up to these rocks under control. I told Wendy there was a rip, and so I assumed that she would become concerned when she couldn't find us. So I was trying to convince Pete that what we should do is just head straight out to sea and then wait for the rescue services.
It's not unusual for them to forget what the time is when they're out surfing. As I've started to panic a little, they've come walking back in at the shore and saying, what's the problem?
We reckoned we were moving about 5 miles an hour. We got a better indication of that when we saw a buoy out in the sea move past us too quickly, and then we started trying to paddle back towards it and just realised that, in fact, we were moving a lot quicker than we thought. With the cold, my leg was getting very stiff, and then just all of a sudden it started going into spasms. I was getting cramps. I fell off my board and ended up in the water, and Pete dove down underneath me and started stretching my foot out to try and get rid of the cramps.
I really thought this is going to be a real problem, because at this early stage, he was starting to suffer. Suddenly there was a light flashing not too far away, and we thought this was a boat. We thought, this is it, this is the rescue. Ian turned and said, it's a lighthouse.
I got quite scared at the time because I thought, well, if it's a lighthouse, there must be some reason for it. There's got to be some rocks or something.
You sort of start to think back through the conversations, and I started to think, well, they talked about a strong rip. My first reaction was actually to flash the headlights. I was just trying to tell them, look, guys, I'm really cold now. It's about time we went home. Stop messing around. Absolutely no result. We tried to have a look for Pete's strobe light that he was wearing. Tried shouting their names. The only possible explanation was that they were in trouble.
Hi, can I have the Coast Guard, please?
The sea just seemed to erupt. There just seemed to be waves just coming from nowhere. We kept getting tumbled under the water because we couldn't see them to duck under them or anything. They just kept hitting us. We could hear them breaking all around us.
The mood had changed. We didn't know what was going to happen next.
Wendy's call started a full-scale rescue involving more than 30 people, 3 lifeboats and a helicopter.
Anyone here?
I knew St Donat's lifeboat station wasn't too far up the coast, and we were going towards it. The rip was moving so fast that it was obvious we weren't going to make it. We actually then saw the boat coming straight out towards us. It hardly seemed worth shouting. It was that close. But we did, and the light was strobing away. To our complete horror, the thing just turned away and headed up the coast.
We were simply told there are two men, two surfers in the water, and they'd last been seen about 4 hours earlier. We flew up the coast and examined the foot of the cliffs in case the surfers managed to get themselves onto a beach.
The crew used night vision goggles to search for signs of life.
We'd entered these first stages of hypothermia. That was clear now. You wanted to shiver. There was nothing there.
We had to get into shore, and Pete was right, and maybe we should have done that all along. I was having to rest for probably longer than I'd actually spent paddling. We were then beginning to realise that it was just not a reality that we were going to paddle towards the shore.
I'm certain that I've never found anybody at night who's been in a search area who's not had life-saving equipment on and some sort of location equipment.
We'd been watching the helicopter panning up and down the cliffs with the searchlight, and we'd just been thinking, look, we're not there, guys, we're not there.
Help me turn the strobe onto a torch.
The helicopter turned and started coming towards where we were.
And we actually saw this glimmer of light and decided to go and have a closer look at it.
He's got us! Here we are!
This has got to be it. Come on, see it. And it flew straight over us.
We can't keep going through this. We can't keep thinking that they're going to rescue us and then realise that they've not seen us. And at that point, the helicopter turned round, and it was just the most amazing experience. There was just this massive light.
We flew towards it, and hey presto, there were two men on surfboards, and we were completely delighted.
After 5 hours in the water, Peter and Ian were eventually picked up 8 miles down the coast and more than a mile out to sea.
Looking through these intensifiers, the water was smashing against these vertical cliffs, and it was like something out of the X-Files. And to think that we were going to try and land on those cliffs. Within minutes, the game was all over. Suddenly, we were descending on the spot that we'd left 4.5 hours earlier.
As with all these situations, you bash them about and you chat through them, and it was probably the next day before we started sort of thinking of realising the enormity of it.
We've decided to actually set a time when I expect them back on shore, and I really keep quite a close eye on these two.
If it wasn't for that single light, we wouldn't have found them when we had found them. One person in the water at night with nothing on, you won't find them.
People have to be prepared for what the sea has to throw at them. It's an amazing but very frightening place.
Next week on Lifesavers, inexperience is the biggest killer of young drivers. We hear one teenager's tragic story.
I find it really difficult to get enthusiastic about things like my birthday and stuff like that, because I know that it's not going to be the way I want it, because he's not going to be there.
You can find out more about 999 Lifesavers by visiting our new website. It's easy to find via the BBC Education site at www.bbc.co.uk/education.